Yes, it's AFC and NFC Championship week. And in this episode, I'm going to take a look at the most concerning flaw for each of the AFC and NFC participants in the championship game this coming Sunday, and the biggest offseason need for those that are not in the AFC and NFC Championship. Plus, we'll take a look at those NFL job openings. Let's call that part two. Coming right on up.
It's time for the Bookie and the Bettors show, live from Baldini's Casino. Beat the Bookie. Make every bet count. Reno's #1 sports radio show is now on streaming platforms. Now, introducing the Bookie, Rob Kowalski, and the Bettors, Randy Weig and Nick Schulte.
Hey, welcome on back. It's yet another episode of the Bookie and Bettors show. I'm your host, Robert Kowalski, joined here by my best friend and colleague, Nick Schulte.
Hey, Rob.
Here at Baldini's Casino. Not too cold outside today.
It's a weird kind of lack of a winter we have going on. I feel like it's more like maybe a late September or even a mid-May right now.
Did you see Bourbon Street in New Orleans last night?
Yeah. Texas, Florida,
Panhandle.
Just weird.
Which basically means we're not getting any snow this winter. I doubt it. It's already like late January.
I'm hoping maybe we get something in February, maybe March. What was it, like 2 years ago? I feel like
it was like April. Didn't we have snow in April?
Yeah,
or something?
I was going to say it was June 15th and it was still 30 degrees outside. So, well, we'll see what happens.
Cold weather means playoff time in the NFL, of course.
Best time of the year.
So what I wanted to do, Nick, is, everyone's, of course we'll get to who you think are going to be participants in the Super Bowl. But I thought we'd do a little interesting twist on how we got here today on this episode. And we take a look at the teams that are in the AFC and NFC conference championships. As we opened up, of course, the lines. I opened up the Eagles 5 over the Commanders, and the total about 48. Got bet down just a touch to 47.5. It's now 6. Some of my other friends have their shops up to 6.5 on the Eagles. And then in the late game on Sunday, the Kansas City Chiefs, we opened 1.5. It's now 2.
When was the last time the book was right on Eagles lines?
No.
Yeah, I'm going to say you got to go back to regular season, right? Okay, I just want to put that out there.
And yes, now here we have the Washington Commanders. I think, I will probably touch on my thoughts on the Lions when we get to the other part of this. These concerns that I have for these divisional round results. But let's start off with those that are in, though, Nick.
Okay.
What do you okay, let's take a look at what do you think are the kryptonite here for the AFC and NFC Championship participants. Let's start off with the absolutely playing with house money Washington Commanders. Obviously, with their results, they simply I don't think they punted. I don't know if they punted. I watched.
I think they punted the first drive, and then it was off to the races.
Off against the Lions.
Yeah.
So if there was a kryptonite here for the Commanders, what would you think would be it right there for them?
I'm going to say their defense. I mean, it's not horrible, but can they contain the Eagles? Can they contain Hurts and Barkley? I think if you had to pick a flaw, that would be one. Clearly, they can score. I like to say the Lions had a decent defense.
Yes.
I mean, I know they were missing some people, but
they were clearly missing some people.
Clearly, they were able to score pretty easily against the Lions. So I think if Commanders can score, I really think it comes down to their defense. If they can just stop them 1 or 2 drives, because again, if they can get points out of every drive, it's going to be tough for the Eagles to keep up.
So, okay, with that said, is there a kryptonite for these Philadelphia Eagles?
I would say they don't finish games. They leave their opponent in a one-possession game. And I was going to look at stats before I came down here, but maybe when was the last time the Eagles won by 2 scores or more?
That's right. There's that really weird stat that happens all the time. It's like you don't see Eagles involved in blowouts often. Yeah. Much like we'll get to the AFC later. Like, when's the last time the Bills have been double-digit anything?
Yeah.
Obviously, it happens very, very rarely. But good point there. I would probably think if there was one kryptonite, it actually lies on Jalen Hurts.
I was gonna.
Right, the kid's got. The thing that I was looking at was his knees. Right, his mobility.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like North-south, he's going to be all right. But if he's got to, like, juke east-west,
that ain't
I
happening.
don't know if those legs are going to actually take him in that direction.
I was surprised he was able to finish that game after that one hit. I think was right before. I mean, he got blown up right going into the half.
Legs are not supposed to bend that way.
Yeah, but I mean, he came in and toughed it out, and then they still got that tush push, to be able to take the lead. So, but yeah, I think it kind of comes back to like what I said. It's just, can the Eagles' offense keep up scoring wise with Washington?
Very good.
So
okay,
I like the Commanders in this one, and just kind of back to what I was saying earlier. I mean, the Eagles, they leave their opponents in it. Clearly, Washington can score.
Yeah.
And I don't know where you guys get 5.5, 6 from. I see this game as probably probably a field goal game coming down to it.
Look, I just open it up. I've said this time and time again. I'm still in price discovery mode. That's where I'm at now. I mean, I set the number, and the first step, actually the second step as well, was on Eagles thus far. For those of you tracking at home who's, are there any plays that are leaning one way or another? Well, yeah, our opener obviously says that the Eagles are the ones that are being played more. Let's move to the AFC, Nick, and with the Bills and the Chiefs, no sudden line moves here like we had against the Ravens. But is there a kryptonite here for the Buffalo Bills? 13-4 record.
It's tough. I mean, Josh Allen is just such a beast. He just kind of takes over that game. My kryptonite is going to be offense, but I think with Josh Allen, he's going to find the hot hand, the receiver that's making plays for that game. So, does it come down to defense? I mean, yeah, I don't know if I could really see a kryptonite for these
great point.
Bills.
And
or at least one thing that I can point out and be like, hey, this is going to be their make or break. There's a lot of things. Obviously, they're going to have a good defense. But really, KC's offense hasn't been stellar this season, and they've been a defensive team. So I think it comes down really to, Andy Reid, one of the best game planners and managers in probably the history of the NFL. What does he have up his sleeve for Josh Allen?
What's the one thing I realize that you just never see, like literally never, is Josh Allen fumbling the ball.
Yeah, no, he's got great ball control. I mean, the guy makes good decisions.
Remember when he came out of college, I'm like, this guy just looks like a stiff freaking buffalo. It's just, he's a giant human being, but is there mobility going to be? All of this was completely debunked. He has an incredible arm. He has just an unstoppable way about him. Once he decides he took the ball, he's gone, and he's not fumbling the ball. Yeah,
and he runs a lot too. I mean, he
runs a lot.
The guy that has what was it, a rushing, passing, and receiving touchdown all in the same game? I mean, that's a trifecta you don't see every day. So.
Well, fair enough. I mean, look, they are a conference participant, conference championship participants for a reason. Tough to find one there. Kansas City Chiefs, they are the 2-point favorite here. We open 1.5, 2-point favorite out the Book of Baldini's. Kansas City have kryptonite?
I'm going to say their offense. I mean, again, they haven't scored well this season, and they've really rested on their defense. They've completely kind of changed their approach to the game this year. But hey, I'm not counting week 18 or 17, whatever it was, when they got blown out because they
that doesn't count.
But they've really only lost one game, and in that they've yet to put up 30 points in a game. So really, their defense is key.
You.
And again, if the Bills can get out there and they can get a 2-possession lead, it's going to be tough for the KC because at least thus far this season, they haven't shown they can score and score fast. Now, we all know Mahomes. We all know how talented he is. And really looking at Kelsey last week, it was night and day from what we've seen all season.
Yes.
Are they kind of starting to pivot back to that more of that offensive model where, Andy Reid says, hey, they're going to kind of game plan around our defense, so let's change up the strategy. But I really think for the Chiefs, it comes down to, can they get Josh Allen off that field and the ball back in Mahomes' hands and keep it on one-possession game? Because that's where they like it to be. So
it's a great point. We'll get to the actual the sides there.
What is up with the 47.5 though? I mean, like I said, the Chiefs haven't even scored 30 all year.
Got bet down.
I should be more like 42-ish.
Okay,
we'll see.
We shall. Now, there's some teams that I wanted to cover also from the other side. Those that are no longer in the playoffs. Those are eliminated from the division round. And let's start off with a team that, I don't know, I just really think, there's just some franchises that just are not allowed to have good things. Right? There's 4. I'll get to that. But the Detroit Lions, you're not allowed to win.
It's been a tough
I had them
tough
at
road.
almost 3-1 to win the Super Bowl. The favorites.
What did I say? If I'm going back, I'm just saying.
There's a segment.
I kept my receipts.
There's a segment that Chris could probably roll back to that you actually, I'm pretty sure you said, how do I get the no on the Detroit Lions winning the Super Bowl, which was like minus 400. But nonetheless.
I believe I also said there's not a single team from the NFC North that will win a playoff game this year. And you guys all laughed me out of the studio.
We said who's the fraud. Actually, the division is the fraud.
Love the Lions, love the game plan. It's just that style of game does not play well in the playoffs.
I don't know. It took me a bit. Once I'm finished with the weekend, I went back to the Lions first. It's just a lot for me to digest because you were number 1 in the NFL. You were number 1 with offense. You had an unstoppable running game. But it's just like so many hot takes were flying. It boils down to basically this. The defense just hit an injury point of no return and just got cooked. The offense had no margin for error. None.
How many receptions?
There was 3 turnovers.
Oh, I thought it was 4. Was it a fumble and 3 turnovers?
You're right.
Okay.
Either way, it was checkmate. Goffed. And that was it. And you goffed at the wrong time.
So do you... Let me ask you this, then. If you take Brock Purdy and you put him in that Lions spot, the Lions win the Super Bowl this year?
No. I don't
put Patrick Mahomes in there?
No.
Okay.
I don't think it mattered.
It's not a golf
I
prop.
just think that this was just... I mean, look, wasn't there play where...
Was it just law of averages and kind of stacked up against them? There's only so many times you can do it before you get burned. Like
right.
I've been saying since week 8.
I mean, how many times can you go for it on 4th down, when you're on 35?
And I think
There's
from a quarterback mentality too, when you have that aggressive play call, which isn't a bad thing,
right.
But you tend to force the ball a little bit more.
Yes, you do.
Right? And how many times are you going to throw it into a bad coverage? And it's a couple of, I think one of those interceptions wasn't his fault. Receiver fell down or kind of read the route. It looked like he threw it right to the guy because the receiver wasn't there. But
and then don't forget the most critical play was in the second half. It was still a game. Commanders 4th and 2 from the 5. Lions at 12 on the field. Well, so I mean, look, top to bottom, we've all finally said you can't be this perfect for this long.
I think it comes. I mean, if we're talking about must needed, must improve.
Yes. So what do the Lions need?
Game management. They need to learn how to manage a game and not rely on these 4th and 2s. It's great. You want to look at it. I mean, who doesn't want to see shootouts? They're fun to watch, but do they translate into wins? In the playoffs, not so much.
And not only that, but we're going to get to this in a moment. Ben Johnson's gone, right? So the thing that they needed the most is to continue to get good management of the game. They just lost the top OC, the most wanted target out there to Chicago, in the own division. We'll get to that in a moment.
That's tough.
Okay. Ravens.
I would like to say that shout out to Chicago as the only, NFC North undefeated team in 2025. So, hey, they can claim that all year long.
Yes,
up until about September. So.
What are we doing with the Ravens? I had this team a way long time ago when we were talking about the schedule and the strength of schedule, how we said the Niners are cooked before the season begins. And I said the Ravens have the best line to get themselves into a number 1 slot. Well, they got that, and...
I think Ravens is kind of a twofold thing. So first and foremost, I was very disappointed in the Ravens defense this year. I mean, usually they're a top 5 defense, I would say, and they let everybody score on them any way they wanted to. So you didn't see that as bad end of the year come playoffs. I don't know if they got some guys back or made some changes to game planning. But I mean, obviously Derrick Henry's a stud. Lamar Jackson, possibly the MVP. You just need receivers that can accurately catch the ball. I mean, I
It's
don't
so
want to point out
sad.
the obvious,
It's
but
so
and I
sad.
feel bad for Andrews. I mean,
Mark Andrews led the team in receptions.
yeah,
It sucks.
yeah.
It just sucks.
But as a guy that last weekend I had Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews to have over 3.5 receptions. So I hit Andrews. I just needed one more catch from Likely, but I had the Commanders with the points, but I also had the Commanders money line.
Okay. Hey, you
And
can-
so when
let that one go by.
when he caught the touch, when Likely caught the touchdown, I hit the over 4.5 receptions
Yes.
each. I'm like, yes, but just don't score the 2-point conversion. And then when he dropped it, I was so happy, but felt so sad at the same time. For the guys,
I mean, look, maybe a little bit on Harbaugh here, but you got Derrick Henry. How about up the middle for that 2-point conversion? He's kind of the position that you wanted to go.
That's a money
Hindsight.
Yeah, I mean, we go back to, was it 15, Pete Carroll. You know, you got the 2-yard line. You got beast mode in the backfield.
Yes,
You decide
right.
to pass it. It works. You're a genius.
It
If it doesn't, well, we all know the way that turned out. So
Nick, Houston Texans. Houston Texans. What are we needing here?
that's a good question. I mean, I have defense a little bit. I think they're a young team. You know, they have potential. And I had to pick one thing. It's just experience. I think they just, this is a good team, and if they can keep these guys together for another season or two, they're going to be back here quite a bit.
I think that's for certain. I mean, look, you lost Diggs, right? That's a top tier wide receiver.
Allegedly.
Tank Dell,
Yeah.
right? That happened in the playoffs, so he's out. Forget about out for the postseason. He's out for all of next year too,
Yeah,
right?
he's got problems.
I think you need more wide receiver help, for them. And then obviously, this one really stings because I don't know how you're going to parse this one out. LA Rams, right there, literally just a pass away from.
They should have won that game. The Eagles did not win that game. LA lost it. Once they fumbled in the second half. That's a tough one because
let me start with this.
I don't think the Rams are going to be back here for a while. I think they got a lot of aging people. Cooper Kupp might be out.
Okay.
Nakua, we all know he's great.
What about Stafford? Is he back?
I think he's in for a while.
Okay.
I would say at least 2 more seasons.
2 more seasons.
At
for him.
least 2 more seasons.
So you're more concerned about Kupp than Stafford.
I'm more concerned about the weapons that he has around him. They've been able to take no-name running backs and make them into something. I mean, look at Gurley before and after.
Oh, that's right.
I mean,
Yes, very good point.
And so clearly McVay knows what he's doing when it comes to the run game and offensive planning. Their defense looked a lot better at the second half of the season. So again, if they can kind of keep those guys, but I just think they're going to have a hard time keeping some of those players around. So
There's to me, there's almost like nothing I would want to have changed with the LA Rams other than can the same core come back? And that's the biggest question, I guess. So the need is...
As a Niners fan, I hope no. They cannot.
I could probably see that. All right, so with that, let's take a look at what's happened here since the last, about a month now since we've taken a look at some of the NFL job openings. So we'll call this one part 2 with the job openings that still remain. But first off, some thoughts here on the 2 major hires. Now, New England has Mike Vrabel as their head coach. Johnson is now with the Chicago Bears. Let's start with Chicago. Obviously, massive loss for Detroit. They probably saw this coming, but he brings a scheme with him and a playbook with him that took the Detroit Lions from probably bottom 5 is being very conservative in offense to top 3 with him and his scheming. So imagine that exact same scheme now with Chicago. Of course, you need a good offensive line. We talked about that at the very beginning.
I was going to go there, huh?
Right? It's kind of hard to replicate, Gibbs and Montgomery, but better damn believe he's probably going to find a way to get that kind of of a knack going.
Yeah, I think he's got potential. He's got some weapons there, but like I'm back to what you said, they got to build that offensive line around him. You can have the best play calling in the world, but if you can't block for more than a second, it doesn't mean anything. So
fair enough.
Hats off to these coaches that kind of work their way up. They get with these great programs and then they move on. But how often do we see that work out long term? There's a reason that they're firing their head coach. They don't have. It's not a quick turnaround usually, So we'll see what happens. I think the Bears have the weapons, but again, you got to kind of hopefully pick up some free agent signings or do whatever you need to do to kind of bolster that offensive line and give your quarterback, hopefully your young franchise quarterback, some time in the pocket to
100% agree.
Get the ball downfield.
You'll have the draft, of course, to bolster. So it's the North again, the fraudulent North. However. Now with Johnson as head coach,
do you have a next season win totals in the Bears yet? Is it like 10.5 this time?
How much higher do they climb in the standings in the division?
That's a tough one because I don't see Detroit going anywhere for a while.
Okay,
Green Bay's young team got some promise. It's a tough division. So
instead of who finishes first. Who finishes last in the division?
The Bears.
Still?
I think so, yeah. Unless they build that lineup overnight, and then I would say the Vikings, obviously, there's a lot that could happen with Darnold, the other quarterback they have. Clearly, he kind of did the worst possible thing for his contract negotiations. But, hey,
he's probably gone in March, actually.
He got him there. He had a great season. So.
Vrabel to New England. I guess the same way as like Johnson to Detroit. Vrabel to New England now. Will it improve? Can they be better? Will they not finish last in the division?
Yeah, I don't think they'll finish last in the division.
Who will?
Jets?
You put a question mark at the end of that.
My gut says Jets. It's the Jets. It's kind of like the Jets are almost. I put them in the same vein as the Las Vegas Raiders and the Detroit Lions, where they're just not allowed to win and not allowed to be good.
Thank you. And to call back to that part that I actually said, there's 4 teams in my book that just are not allowed to have good things. Mm-hmm. That would be not New England, the New York Jets, the Cleveland Browns.
Oh, that's a good point.
The Detroit Lions, and actually the Buffalo Bills. Not allowed to have good things.
It's been a tough road.
Much can change in the next 3 weeks for Buffalo. However, those are my 4 teams that are not allowed to have good things right now.
I don't see Buffalo beating the Chiefs this weekend. I'd love it. Who wouldn't love what would the total be on a Bills-Commanders Super Bowl? That'd be huge. I think that's what America would love to see.
Funny you should bring
that up. We've already seen Chiefs-Eagles, and we know how that plays out. So,
no, let's do that. What would you make it? I think let's do a look ahead right here. This is great because jobs are what they are, but let's do a Super Bowl look ahead line right now. Commanders Bills.
I'm going to say Bills -6, total 52.5.
You're very, very close. I was going to make it 53.5, but maybe too many points. Super Bowl, I'd make Bills less than 6.
Okay.
Maybe 5. Stay with Bills. Eagles Bills.
I still go back with the Bills.
Yeah.
I
agree.
Maybe 3.5 at that point.
I'd make it a bit tighter, but yes, I agree. Bills would be favorite. Mm-hmm. Let's go the other side now. Commanders Chiefs.
I'm going to say Chiefs -5.
That's my number.
Okay.
That's my number. And then I guess so the same way, like we had the Bills, a small favorite over the Eagles, Chiefs and Eagles.
I'm going to say Chiefs -2.5.
You know what? I'm just going to take my job.
Oh, shit.
Take my job. That was perfect.
No.
That was actually a perfect look ahead. That was I'm telling you, we don't script any of this. I just, talk to him and say, listen, here's what I want to do before the show begins.
It's amazing what happens when you watch football every week. After so many weeks, you can kind of start seeing trends and little things here and there. Still can't win half the time.
So, obviously, with the games coming up, I want to get your take on how do you think these games will shake and we actually get to the Super Bowl. And then we'll have a couple other fun things that we'll discuss in between, because obviously we'll have a week off and we could talk about a couple of other things football related. But with the games being what they are, again, we'll start off with the Eagles, 6-point favorite in the total, 47.5. All the things that we discussed today, Nick, are you laying or taking here in the NFC Championship?
I'm doing the same thing I did last week. I'm gonna put 4 units on the Commanders with the points and 1 unit on the Commanders' money line.
You are you are definitely one person that is pressing in the right direction. I know you had and very clearly you could go back and check out our previous episodes. You love the Rams and you love the Commanders, and no need to stop now, especially with, again, all the things that we discussed with Philadelphia and their kryptonite.
And I go back, and I think if the Rams played that game 100 times, I think you have a different outcome 70 of those.
I would agree with you as well. I think that there's – I mean, look, and think about this. They played that way in hostile territory, snow, right? All the things that went against a West Coast team, and they were like a throwaway, basically. Yeah. Bills and Chiefs, this is, I mean, as good a game as we could probably want. I mean, look, I think we've got who we wanted, and the Commanders were probably the one team that was the one that really wasn't expected here. But Bills, Chiefs, so many people called for this a while ago, and we do see Buffalo here as the team of destiny, or are you going to look at Kansas City here with going for 3?
My heart would love to see the Bills win. I'd love to see the Bills in the playoffs, or in the Super Bowl, maybe even win one. I mean, how many times they went to the Super Bowl? What, like 5 years in a row or something like that?
Yes, they did.
In the early 90s.
Yes. Scott Norwood remembers.
They still don't have one. So, but it's the Chiefs, and like I've preached all season long, the trend is your friend. Well, who's been the Super Bowl winner the last 2 years? I mean, I saw a stat the other day, and I want to say it was the last 15 AFC Championships games has either had Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes. That's pretty. So
it's as solid as it gets.
I think it's a close game. I think it comes down to Chiefs win by 3. So I'm taking the Chiefs at the -2. I don't like your 47.5. I think it's going to go way under. So I generally stay away from totals, but this one seems pretty obvious to me, so I'm going Chiefs -2 in the under.
So what does everyone think? I mean, Nick's calling for a Chiefs-Commanders Super Bowl. Let us know.
Then it comes down to really does defense wins championships? Because you have the offensive team, questionably, of the year. I know obviously the Lions, but the Lions lost to the Commanders against the defensive team of the year.
I don't see anyone having real defense here.
Yeah.
It's who scores last, I think, in all of these games.
100%. So.
And obviously with the spreads being what they are, Nick has already, harped on the Washington Commanders and all the things that they've done to this point. But yes, please let us know what you think. Put it in the comments below. I mean, if you think that you're also going to see a Commanders-Chiefs Super Bowl, let us know one way or another. Of course, as always, if you liked what you see here today, don't forget to like and subscribe. Appreciate you all, obviously, watching us here on YouTube and listening to us wherever you get your podcasts. This was fun.
Love it.
Next week, we're going to do
Super Bowl preview.
More football. I'll have a couple of things that we could talk about. Maybe we'll do some postseason awards. I'll ask you for those.
I can't remember if we talked about it last week or not, but is Deion Sanders an NFL coach next year?
If you're asking me now, the answer is no. So we'll see that too.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
So, for Nick Schulte, I'm your host, Robert Kowalski. Thank you so much again for joining us. See you again next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Bookie and the Bettor Show. Don't miss out. Subscribe now and be the first to know when new episodes drop. Hit that subscribe button and join us.